Welcome over here. We're doing this beatbox remix joint real quick, going live for the first time. So look, what I want to do with this one is give you some more context behind what we did for our video collaboration, mixing together hip hop music with Celtic Harp. So here the ND Mary Kate Spring Lee. All right, let's welcome her up here. Paya.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Yay. Thank you so much for being here, for being there.
I know it's
For
weird,
getting there in the crib.
close but far.
Yes, yo, close but far, indeed. Yeah. So my bad, y'all. We had some difficulties earlier. I'm like, yo, this mic, what's up with this mic working? So for all people that really you knew exactly what I was saying. So here we go. We are here. So for those who haven't seen the video, there's some quick homework to do. We're gonna before we show the video real quick. Um First, I would like to just introduce the homie and say, like, yo, how did you come into playing the harp?
It was an instrument that kind of like grew up in the house with us. Like I never thought about the harp, but my mom always wanted to play. So she got into it when I was about 12, and then I started taking lessons. And then, kind of like when you have large instruments in your house, like the piano, I think a lot of the kids end up doing it as an activity. So like I learned, and then my three sisters learned to play as well.
Mhm.
But my two brothers like wouldn't have it, so they didn't learn harp. But all the girls play.
Yes, I and do your brothers play instruments as well?
Yeah, I've got a brother who's in college right now for cello, and then I have another brother who does the hammered dulcimer and guitar and stuff.
Hmm. That is what's up. And so do y'all get a chance? I mean, we'll just talk a little early on IG, because I was curious if y'all had the opportunity to play together as a family since everyone plays an instrument in that joint.
We do, gosh. So for a long time, we've been playing as this band called Seasons, which is like our sibling band, which worked out well, like having a large family because you're like, oh, like instant band. So that's like really, a blessing. So we do kind of Celtic music, and then we do a lot of like original music that kind of has a Celtic folk flair to it. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and how did you come into like and how this music specifically like Celtic music?
hmm I think it's a lot with our heritage. So my great grandmother came over from County Clare when she was 19. So we have a
Wow.
lot of, Irish heritage, and we grew up listening to so much Irish music. And then I think with my kind of harp, the Celtic harp, you know, Irish music is just kind of like such a natural like type of music that's played on this kind of harp.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's also just so fun to play. So I think that's part of what drew us to the Celtic music.
Yes. I love getting the opportunity to play to be able to play with musicians doing Celtic music. And so I love so look, just to give y'all some context so y'all know what we talking about, I'm gonna put here on the screen share the video that we did together. Now, because everybody and their mom are live streaming right now and on Facebook, you might get a little lag real quick. So you know what I'm saying, be patient, bear with us, you know what I'm saying, be forgiving and merciful. All right. So here we go right here. Let's go into it. Here we go. Yay, we did it, we
Oh,
did it, we did
so
it.
fun to put together.
Yes. So so for so for you, well, what was your process like for doing everything? Like, were you new to like recording some stuff or doing like live streaming and stuff like that? What
Oh
was your process?
God, definitely. Like it's definitely that, kind of upping the like either live streaming and like video game has always been on my radar, but it's one of those things that you're like, oh, like I'll figure out how to do this better like eventually. And then suddenly, with not being able to leave the house, you're like, oh, I like really need to figure this out. And then you kind of approached me on the project, like, do you want to do this? And part of me was like, yeah, I really want to, but I don't know, like, if I know how to do it. But then luckily, like, your 10-point instruction, like, manual of, like, how to do an effective video was very helpful.
Yay. Well, man, I'm glad you were just down and into doing this project because I really wanted to record this video together.
Oh,
So
me
backstory for both of us. We met back in 2015 when I was doing my Washington Sound Museum concert series at the Atlas Performing Arts Center. So did a concert. This whole Washington Sound Museum concert series was about bridging the cultural divide every quarter by taking 3 whole months to create a body of work that mixes together my music, which is like hip hop, go go, mixture of jazz and classical influences with my ensemble, string quartet, horn, DJ scratch, and all that stuff, and then mix that with another collaborator, right, from a different genre of music from a different part of the world, and find ways to mix these styles together, not only the music but the dance. And
Mhm.
so we did this concert, Hip Hop Meets the Music of Ireland, with my key collaborator, Shannon Dunn, who plays concertina and does shanos, like a traditional old
So,
style dance. It's amazing. It's like tap. So we had like shanos dancing and competitive like Celtic dance
mhm.
performed by Kate Spanos, and we mixed that up with tap dancing.
Gosh, yeah, the
Um,
tap dance was so cool.
that was crazy. There's video, y'all. There's video of it, and
Well, that
it's
was
on YouTube.
mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, just type in Washington Sound Museum, Ireland or Irish music, and then you're gonna see that, and then you're gonna see in one of the videos that one of the attendees shot, the video of us doing a song together.
Oh, that's
So
so cool that they still have that. That's awesome.
yo, it's just there's somebody like a fan just like did
Oh,
it and put it up, man. So thank
awesome.
goodness for them. And so that's there, and that's how we met. Because I believe Shannon Dunn connected us. And
Mhm.
how did you meet Shannon Dunn?
It was really crazy because so I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so it's like right in the middle of the state. But then I was kind of already doing sort of, the virtual music thing. So I was taking Skype lessons with one of Shannon's friends and collaborators, Alex Boatwright. So we were doing Skype lessons together for years. And so Alex was also kind of like DC area. And then I think she was the one who hooked like me up with Shannon. And then I kind of got involved in the project, which was so much fun. I still have a
Yes.
poster on my wall.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for driving.
No, I loved it. I feel like when you're a musician, you just like get used to driving. So that's one of the weird things is like my husband plays music too. So I think we're like, should we just drive like to get food or something? We're like, it's so weird not driving.
Yo, man, y'all about that life. I'm like the opposite. As a musician that plays internationally and nationally,
Oh yeah.
like I don't know how to drive.
Oh, that's
So
funny. So you're always like flying or probably doing like public transportation and stuff.
yeah, I'm public transit. I'm public transit guy. So I got all the light portable equipment. I have a guitar right here. I have 2 light portable guitars. One of the guitars like the neck folds in half
No
and
way.
stuff.
That's
Yo, it's made by Voyager Guitar. It's great. I suggest y'all check that out. And then also I suggest that you check the homie. I suggest you check the homie and I out too. So look, down below you're gonna see our social media handles and stuff for IG, for Instagram. And so while y'all checking that out, look, this right here's my little portable guitar right here.
whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. And this thing it unscrews back here, and then this whole like side like disassembles and stuff, and then you could carry it with you on a plane or whatever.
That's so cool.
Because yeah, have you ever had to fly with your harp though?
No. So the two times like I was playing in Ireland, luckily I like rented a harp once I get over there because like harps are like so prominent in Ireland. So it's like really easy
Oh, okay.
to, to find a harp over there. I know. So my teacher, when she's brought her harp over, she's had to like buy, a seat for the harp. And then like when my younger sister, she was competing in Ireland on the dulcimer, but she had to like buy a seat on the plane for the dulcimer.
Like a cello.
There's always that problem of like, well, I guess I could buy a hard case, but then it's like somewhere under the plane and like, who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, it's wild.
That's crazy. It's interesting to see how like different countries that have a really like long standing musical tradition,
Yeah.
how they treat instrumentalists and their instruments.
Yeah. What have you
Like,
experienced?
well, let's see. Well, I mean, there was a story that came out that a lot of musicians got hip to about United Airlines, like totally like destroying a guitar, and the dude
Oh,
made a YouTube video and a song about it
oh
and,
my God.
and all that, and it raised awareness. And so now, like, it's a little bit different how they treat it, but still, you have to put it, overhead. I've had some really nice people be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna put it in the stroller compartment."
Oh, that's great.
Um, and so that's really kind of them. And the craziest thing that I saw, well, crazy for me, you know what I'm saying, was when I went to Brazil. Like the first time I went to Brazil, a dude had his whole classical guitar and his guitar like bag and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like the gig bags.
Yeah.
No, no, my bad. He did not have a gig bag. He just had that joint. It was like
Just like
classical guitar
Zeus. Oh my
acoustic.
God.
Yeah, it's like, so it's kind of like this. This is a 3/4 size guitar, but it was larger. And so he just went like this. He went over, walked down the aisle with the joint, and sat down on the plane in the seat, like boom, and then he put his guitar like right
So
here,
we just like held it
bow,
and that was fine. Oh my God.
between his legs on the floor, and then the neck of the guitar was sitting up right here. And I saw like at least two bammers with it. Two cats did this, and I was like, wow. I was like, Brazil's amazing.
That
I
is
mean,
so
that's really
nice.
dangerous
So
if you
there's some
crash.
place where like, you could have like your phone charger like on your knee and they're like, that needs to go under the seat. But yeah,
I guess they was like, yo, let him live. Let him live. He playing that guitar, man. You know what I'm saying?
I know he's bringing the good music. That's awesome.
Exactly. The good crack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, you remember that? So look, we were doing this, we was doing this freestyle thing real quick. Quick side story. All right, so we were doing at this Hip Hop Meets the Music of Ireland concert. We were doing a freestyle thing where I take 10 words from the people and then have to freestyle and make these words somehow rhyme and make sense. And so people give me all types of words, tristodecaphobia, hippopotamus, whatever. And then this one Irish guy raises his hand. I point to him in the crowd. He says crack. And I'm like, what? You know what
Right.
I'm saying? As a DC cat who grew up in the 80s, I was like, crack? I was like, we don't want to hear about crack. Like,
Right.
actually I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? Really, I was on the tail end. So like I was like, man, what inspired you to say crack? And then as he's about to explain, Shannon Dunn, the collaborator for Hip Hop Meets the Music of Ireland, she started laughing. She's like, all right, Chris, I'm gonna have to explain this to you. And so please explain to the people
Oh, so
crack.
crack. Crack is a Gaelic word and it kind of encompasses so many like wonderful things. So crack is like good music, good dance, a good time and fellowship with your friends, and you can use it on all kinds of contexts. Like you could talk about going out to somewhere like a pub or something, and you're like, oh, like there's good crack there, or like if you went somewhere and you had a good time, you're like, oh yeah, like it was good crack. But yeah, it's one of those great words where there's not like, a word in English where it's like, oh yeah, it encompasses all these things. So it's very handy.
Yo, I think that was the thing that caught me off guard, and then Shannon had to explain it. He was like, "Yeah, like all this is good crack," and I was
Right.
like,
You're like,
"What?"
what?
I was like, "You did not help my mental state when
Exactly.
you
You're
first of
like,
all you gave me crack." That's that type of stuff. If you were living in DC, like during the crack epidemic, and you were Irish, and you was on the phone talking about good crack, you would have got your whole house raided. You
I
know what
know.
I'm saying? No questions.
Oh
But
my gosh.
what a language though, right? Like I know Duolingo started doing a Gaelic like lesson.
Yes. I like. I attempted it. I like saw it come up, and I'm like, oh, like this will be great. I'll be so like, now I'll really learn Gaelic. But then I like tried it out. And like, this is tricky because it's like so different than like English or French. It's definitely not a Romance language. Yeah, exactly. So we're like, after like failing my lesson every day, I'm like, maybe I'll go back to French for a little.
Yo, let me
It's
tell
a
you, like,
beautiful
I
language.
find it to be so deceptive. I mean, French is one of those languages that is hella deceptive because what is written is not how it's pronounced. And when you look at Gaelic, it's like times 10. I'm like, hold on, this is supposed to mean what?
Mm-hmm.
This is pronounced how? Like, yeah, it's like a classic name that is written. My friends, if you could think of if you could think of my Irish youngers that in the house right now on the live stream. Write down a name. Write down a traditional
Oh,
traditional Irish name that is common time that's
like
often mispronounced.
Saoirse is another one. You're like, oh, it's not like Saoirse or something. You're like, oh, so you say that?
Saoirse.
Yeah,
How do you spell that?
that one. So it's weird. I think it's
SAOR.
SAOR, maybe like IFE or something. It's like kind of wild, like Saoirse Ronan, the actress. Like, but it's funny because like, yeah, my husband and I are actually expecting a baby, and we're like, oh, like Celtic names are so pretty, and then you're like, well, like, will our kid be able to spell their name? Like, how long will that take? And it's like crazy.
Oh my goodness, yeah, man. Like it's funny, like how every culture has like their naming conventions and stuff right there based on language. It's same. Like people oftentimes like to go on people like in black communities for doing our names a certain way that we do it, but it's a naming convention. It's a styling. It's a culture to it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, it turns out like, oh, it's not weird or odd. It's just like, yeah, culturally, like this is, our spelling or like our names and stuff.
Yes. So look, I would like for the people over here out there tuning in, I would like to get into some music real quick. So if I could ask you to play a little something, just to give them context on the instrument and like how it works and stuff like that, like explain the instrument how it works and give them a piece.
Yeah, so this is the Celtic harp. So it's got a ton of different names. It could be the Irish harp, the folk harp. It's also called the lever harp because you've got these switches up here called levers. And when you put one of these up, you're actually going to bring your string up a half step. So that's how we get the different keys on the lever harp. On the concert harp or the pedal harp, you are going to get your sharps and flats with your feet. You've got 7 pedals, one for each note on the scale, and then that's how you do that. So both of the harps have like their own challenges in learning how to play. So I'll play you a little bit so you can actually see some levering in a song, and then I can just play you a little bit of Celtic because that's kind of
Yes.
my main thing. So with changing the levers during a piece, a lot of times you'll just kind of like fit it into the rhythm of the song. Then I get ready. So a lot of times you're working it into the rhythm of the song, and you're also kind of thinking about like, oh, if I played this note and it's ringing, I'm gonna want to mute it before I put it down, unless you want that like nice, which sometimes you do want, a little bit of a bend on your way down or up, depending on
Yeah.
what you're playing. So that can be fun too.
Beautiful. And so before like going into a Celtic piece real quick,
Yeah.
yeah, if y'all have any questions for my friend over here, Mary Kate Spring Lee, I would like you to write it down in the comment section and then we're going to address them joints. So look, write it down in the comment section and we're going to get into some music. Hi y'all. It is all yours, my friend.
Oh, cool. All right. So this piece is called The Crabs and the Skillet. And this one was actually our first collaboration together back when we did our Sound Museum concert. So, Crabs and the Skillet.
Beautiful.
Hey, thank you.
So nice. So yeah, I remember that piece. There's actually a video that exists of us doing that together. I posted it on my Instagram back when like the video function was just coming out for IG.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to send you a link to that joint and find it.
oh my gosh,
Um,
so fun.
and what else? Yeah, because I remember that joint because when you told me the name, it's called Crabs in the Skillet,
Mhm.
and it just reminded me of some classic DC like summer tradition when you're just like hanging out on the porch, got newspaper spread out on the porch on the, like a picnic table,
Mhm.
or whatever, like a little bench in the park, and then people just banging crabs open and stuff, and just
Oh my gosh, that sounds like the dream right now.
yep. So that's your dream. For me, that's my nightmare. I mean, the community is good,
Mhm.
but for me, I'm allergic to shellfish. I'm allergic to all crustaceans.
When
So
did
yeah.
you learn that? Was that like one of those things you found out as a kid or older?
I found out as a kid. We were ordering carry out. Are you familiar? Hold on. You know carry out? You been to a carry out in DC before?
No.
So carry out it's a Chinese takeout spot. We just call them carry out.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like the Brits would call it takeaway. But in DC, is instead of saying carry out, we say curry out because it's our accent. So it's like, oh, you go to a curry out.
Yeah.
It's so bad that a New Yorker friend came down here and she was asking all these DC youngins, like this is a while ago when the city was populated mostly by DC folks. But
Yeah.
like she asked, she was like, yo, where's the best place for me to get something to eat? Like, oh yeah, you gotta go to the carry out. She asked the next person, oh, go to the carry out. She asked the third person, yeah, yeah, go to the carry out. And she said, all right. So she tried to look it up on Google and she said, yo, Chris, I couldn't find this carry out for the life of me. And this like when we're like in person linking up. And then I was like, okay, well, show me what you had in Google Map. And she looked at it. I looked at it, and that joint said CURRY-OUT curry out, like straight up like the spice, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's carry out. It's the DC accent. I'm so sorry,
So funny.
so sorry. So yeah, quick little culture things. So I found out I couldn't eat crustaceans when we ordered some shrimp fried rice,
Oh, ooh,
and that was a hard evening, man,
sad
for my
day.
whole life. Like.
Oh gosh.
Mm. Don't want to think about it. I used to love Mary Kay just was so kind of play us some music. So when it comes to like Celtic harp specific Celtic harp and Celtic music, for the music, how is it arranged? I noticed that there's some things that remind me a lot of jazz when you're playing when you go to a venue or a session and you see it go down. So can you explain a little bit more about like the culture and like how these sessions work and stuff and the repertoire?
Oh yeah. So it's so, it's fascinating because I feel like, Irish music will go through like different phases where like there are different instruments or like other types of music sort of influencing it.
Hmm.
Because it's interesting because like, for a while with Celtic music, you hear tons of piano, like in all the recordings and tons of the bands, there's a lot of piano. And then when you hit like the 60s and like the 50s, you were getting more and more like guitar in Celtic music, which was actually kind of like a newer thing, which is funny because you listen to it and you're so
Wow.
used to oh, of course there would be guitar in Celtic music. And then you're like, oh, like that wasn't really the thing in like, the 1800s or the early 1900s or things like, you know, you hear banjo so much in Irish music. And that was also just kind of one of those new, like, sort of additions where, like, it kind
When?
of, yeah, kind of got added in because, like, banjo's definitely, not a native Irish instrument, but then it's like, wow, this sound like fits so well, like in this music. So it's interesting because, like, within Irish music, you'll get some that sounds like very traditional, like with the piano. Then you'll get some that definitely like borrows from like jazz chords and jazz rhythms because that's also just like a really cool collaboration. So I feel like with my
Yeah.
own Irish music, just kind of like growing up and like listening to different musical styles and like being exposed to different ones. I think my type of Irish playing kind of like leans more toward like the modern or like the jazz kind of side of things. But it's neat because there are just like so many different expressions of, you know, the tunes, which like some of the tunes are really, really old, but then people are always kind of like reinventing them with their different like improvisations and stuff.
Ah, that's so dope. So it's like so it's taking really old repertoire
Mhm.
and then putting like a modern stamp on it like through the ages.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely like, and it's funny because sometimes like with sort of like tried and true session tunes, there will even be like, you know, some little variations that like everyone has just kind of learned by ear, like, oh yeah, like, you know, you would always, instead of playing a triplet here, like making it one long note is like a great, you know, common variation. So a lot of it is just kind of like coming up with your own variations or variations to the tunes. So yeah,
Mm.
that's kind of where a lot of the self-expression comes in.
That's beautiful, yo. Like I feel really really fortunate to be introduced to the community early on. I remember the first time I went to a session and I was just like, yo, so it's in a pub, right? Average pub joint.
Yeah,
Come up in that joint, all these cats in a circle, right? And, in this place and they're playing music. And then sometimes like cats will get up and dance and they'll do like clogging and stuff like shanos and all.
yeah.
And it's really interesting because it reminds me so much of Brazilian music and Brazilian culture, yo. They
Mhm.
have a thing called a roda de samba. I'm gonna
Mhm.
write it down. I'm gonna write it down real quick. So
Oh yeah.
look, it's called roda de samba. All right. And so look, just type that into your Google and whatever. Just Google that, put it on YouTube. Look, put it up on the screen for you. Bam. All right, look on the bottom, right there. You got it. Roda de samba, young. So like a roda de samba, everyone is gathered around with the instruments around the table. They're usually like some beer there, you know, people drinking, having a good time,
Yeah.
and they're playing the instruments.
Oh
So
wow.
yo, and they like go through songs, and everyone just knows all of these songs. It's like this common repertoire. Like, oh yeah, we all know where this is happening. We know that it's on the one chord. It's gonna go to the four chord, then the five chord, back to the one. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. And then you could improvise around them and stuff sometimes. And
Neat.
then you have another one that's more improv based called Roda de Choro, and that right there. Hold on, let me put that on there. So that right there is a roda de choro. Choro is a style of traditional Brazilian music that has a lot of influence from the Baroque time period.
Really?
Using mandolin, yeah, using like mandolin, which is called bandoline,
Mhm.
and it's more like jazz because you have a form. It's based on a rondo form. So
Mhm. Wow.
old classical music, Baroque craziness. I so look, you play the head composition, which is that main melody, that B section, then that C section is gonna creep up there in the cut, like almost like a bridge, and then it goes back around to the A section. And after that is done, you're doing all types of improvisation over the stuff, solo and solo and solo, and going all around. The guitars are going to get a solo. This person on the guitar, and then the mandolin is going to get a solo. Back around to the head, which is the main like melody, and then you're out. And that right there is how it works. It's like jazz. And when going to the session, it's like, okay, everyone's playing the melody. No one's like taking like a hard solo like jazz.
Right.
Like where they just like stretching all the way out. It's kind of like you're all a soloing together over the melody, but and these things. How does that work so that it's not like a like so that it's not like cats fighting?
Right, exactly. That's amazing. Yeah.
So how does it work for a session so that it's not like cats fighting?
You know, that's a
Because
good
you all
question.
have to play the melody, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like, so when you're coming up with improvisations, it's funny because it's almost like, in a way, it seems like jazz because, like, a lot of times when I'd be working with my teacher, Alex, and I'd like bring in, you know, some of my own like variations I'd figured out, and like some of them she'd be like, "Oh, that one's good," and then she'd be like, "That one, you know, doesn't sound Irish," and then I'd be like, "Well, like, why doesn't it sound Irish?" But it's one of those
Right.
two of like the only answer is like it just does, you know, it doesn't. So you just need to like keep listening. So a lot of times, you know, I feel like you're doing a variation that's like kind of very slight from the tune. But then you also like if you listen to recordings and stuff, like there are like amazing instrumentalists like Martin Hayes who plays the fiddle, and he just can like, you know, his variations can like go all over the place. But then they also just like, you know, sound right and sound so, you know, so Irish, and they just fit. So it's that really weird combination of like, you know, I guess like you know when it works and when you know when it doesn't work.
Yeah, right. Now that's so fascinating. So
Mm-hmm.
like we have all these things. Now that was like Irish traditional stuff in the session and Brazilian music. So that's African diaspora. But here in the United States, we have jazz, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so this reminds me a lot of jazz because like it's like how y'all know all these songs. Y'all just know all these like you know what I'm saying? Like what's it? Oh, like oh yeah, we're gonna do this giant. We just start playing. It's like, oh, that's Golden Eagle. I'm about to jump. Do you know Golden Eagle, by the way?
No, I don't.
Man, like yo,
No.
that's a good little joint. So
Okay, I
like
can write that down so I can look it up.
what's the what's the name of the one composer harpist that wrote like all the bomb tunes? It's like if you had the greatest hits album.
Carolyn, yeah. Oh, Carolyn just has like hundreds of them, and he was interesting too because he's sort of like he was very inspired by like kind of classical music. So it's
Oh
interesting
really?
because his Irish music definitely has like its own flavor, and you listen to his stuff and you're like, wow, that has kind of like a classical feel to it, and you're like, oh, it's because he was like, you know, really interested and like tuned into the classical side of things. So it's funny because like, you know, you'll hear a lot of O'Carrollin pieces, but sometimes they're not like, you know, they're not quite the same as like a traditional Irish tune, just because like his are just like this slightly different flavor. So you'll get like O'Carrollin festivals or like competitions that are just like who can play O'Carrollin the best or something like that. But yeah, he was amazing.
Oh,
And
Carolyn's the
he
dude.
was blind.
Yo,
There you go.
so like oh Carolyn, like what's Carolyn's first name?
Oh, Turla.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I look for those who aren't familiar with the stuff. I'm posting it in the comments section real quick for you to look up so you can have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Another
yeah, so there you go.
spelling for you.
Yo, look at the Irish name spellings.
Mhm.
Yo, Gaelic as a language, young,
Oh my
is
gosh, it's so wild.
so deceptive. I was talking when we was doing this on IG on IG Live. We was talking about Duolingo because I actually tried to. I was like, man, I was learning Portuguese on Duolingo. Let me learn another language. And then
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, yo, I'm about to learn this Gaelic real quick. You know what I'm saying? Be in a session, chilling. And then or whenever we take the collaboration to Ireland.
Yeah.
And man, at the time they didn't have it was some component that they didn't have that was gonna be really that that was integral to like trying to figure it out. But
Hmm.
basically what was written and the sound to sound like two totally different things.
Oh yeah, it was rough. I need to revisit it and see if they've come up with any extra like survival guide to it. Because I was trying and I'm like, I don't think I can do this on my own. Like this is crazy.
Nah, you need a homie. You
Mm,
need full immersion. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the one. All right, so look, we had the homie over here, Mary Kay Springlee, play a tune. I'm gonna play a quick tune for you all too. So we got to even this out.
Oh, please.
Um, so here we go. I was talking about. Well, we were talking about like technique with lever harp and stuff like that. Now I'm gonna go into something real quick. I use my instrument, the beatbox, to make that work. And so on the video when we did this together, and now I'm gonna play a little guitar for you as well. So let's turn on some guitar. All right, can y'all hear the guitar over there? All right, if you can hear the guitar, let me know in the comment section. And look, while I play this music, my friends, go ahead. If you have any questions for any of us about the styles of music and stuff and how we work together, just put it in the comment section. We're going to answer it straight up after the music. And if you are watching a rebroadcast version of this, then still put your comments in the comment section. We're going to come back and answer your questions. All right, so no problem. All right, here we go. Let's see. I'm going to do a little piece that I've been working on mixing together jazz and human beatbox. I don't think you heard this one, Mary Kate.
Okay.
So look, here we go. Step all the way back. Here we go. Dang. Concerts and interviews from the crib, from the couches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
All right, let me put this in full. Here we go, my friends. Thank you so much, my friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
A little bit of jazz styling with guitar and the human beatbox.
Mm.
Mm. So yeah, that's why I like to work on is taking the human beatbox and expanding it and doing it in different genres of music. So do you get a chance to experiment much with mixing together like your style of harp playing, but with totally different styles of music, prior to us working together?
Mhm. Yeah, it kind of like, it really depends. Like, I've done some stuff with, some musicians that are definitely more classical. So that's been like fun and not too much of a stretch. My husband plays the trombone. So that's like our biggest musical, like, thing to figure out right now is like, so what
Whoa.
can we do with like trombone and harp? So, like, we've been playing around with like, he has a jazz background. So we've done like, some of that. We played around with some classical stuff. Some of the like medieval and Renaissance stuff works out too. But then it's fun. I also play at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, and like the type of music there is really fun because it can be anything from like, you know, like medieval music to Renaissance to like, folk tunes from the 60s. So it's really like a grab bag and like people from all different experiences. So that's like really fun too.
You talking about for Ren Fair?
Have you been to a Ren fair?
Oh yes, I have.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So look, my backstory. I used to work at the House of Musical Traditions. That was my last like traditional style job before I became a full time musician.
Okay.
Um, and so and so they will always have like a booth and all that
Mhm.
At the Ren Fair.
Oh,
I forget where it is. It's somewhere. Where is it again?
I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. Like, there's the Maryland Renaissance Fair.
I'll go to the Maryland one.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Cool.
are you at the So have you been to the Maryland one?
I've never been to it, so I work at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, but
Ah,
I've heard Maryland's really cool because I think they don't have like any paved roads or anything, so it's
nope.
yeah,
Straight
like,
woods.
traditional. That's wild. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm
it's fun. It's fun. And the big turkey legs too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Back when I was like eating meat and stuff, like, wow, I used to punish them things.
oh my gosh, it's so funny.
And mead.
Oh yeah.
Dog, that's so crazy. Like the Ren Fair is such an interesting like world. For real, growing up in Southeast DC, I wouldn't have known nothing about
It's an
that.
interesting scene because it's like, the people who are into it are like so into it and like so plugged in. But then like some people have like never heard of a Renaissance fair before either, which is like funny, like when they come in for the first time.
Wow, yeah, it's his own world. I'm like, dang, I'm kind of dressed for the Ren Fair.
Right.
Just with this it. Other than that, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like I'm kind of dressed for the Ren Fair, but
Are those? It's like now, at least at our Ren fair, it's kind of like some people like to come as like steampunk. A lot of people will just sort of wear like, whatever they want and whatever like they think like, oh, like I love wearing this and like, so it's really your chance to just kind of like dress the way you want and like, yeah, people
Mhm.
like. But then there are the people who wear like full like metal armor like in August and you're like, wow, like I salute you. Like I would not be doing that for
Wow,
free.
brave souls, brave
Mhm.
souls.
Yeah.
So, quick little interlude, y'all. If you have any questions for my friend Meg K. Springley on like on what she does with Celtic harp and like Celtic music and Irish music, yo, write them in the comments below. If you're watching the rebroadcast, write in the comments below, and we're still gonna like answer your questions afterwards. Okay, so it's your time if you ever want to know about that. I just have another question, and then boom. So my question is like, what's the difference? What would you say is the difference? Because it's so interesting. Well, I actually got two questions for
Okay.
you. So Irish music, Celtic music, like like what's the thing? Is it like an umbrella like hip hop, and then in hip hop you got rap music, and then you might have trap stuff, and you have gangster stuff or whatever. Like, progressive hip hop. Like, what are the differences with these naming conventions right here?
Oh, that is such a good question. And I
What
think,
is Celtic music? What
yeah,
is
you hit the nail on the head. So like I think Celtic music is kind of like your umbrella term where like
mm,
you can fit a lot of different things in. So like Celtic music could be like Irish music or, it could be Irish, Scottish, like just sort of generally folky music. Probably like, you can also have sort of like a lot of people like that Celtic or like Irish music that kind of has almost like a new age or like a really soothing feel. So that would fit. And then I think if you say Irish music, it's really talking about like the tunes themselves. So like, oh, you're playing music that like was written in Ireland, or it's like, written in that exact style of Irish music. So I think Irish is definitely the more like specific term, but then Celtic, you can have like, all kinds of different genres and stuff floating around.
so then it's inclusive of like Scottish music too, and you like, okay, we bringing in this style too.
Yeah, and sometimes even like so sometimes they'll even like fit like French Canadian music sort of like fits in there too. So there's
Okay,
like
Quabaqua.
different festivals like Celtic Colors is one. But yeah, so that's kind of where like you'll get all these different like kind of mixes of styles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And then my second question, I
Hmm.
think this be my last question,
Okay.
unless y'all got questions for myself or the homie. Like, what I'm saying, this will be my last question. All right, here we go. Drum roll. So you're preparing to go to a session, right? So
Okay.
you're going to the pub, and then there's a session going down. So like a jam session. Um, how do you prepare? Because it could be any tune, what I'm saying, that is being played. How do you prepare for the session?
That is such a good question. So there's a lot of like there's a lot of session etiquette that's like really important to know. So like, if you're going to a session you've never been to before, it's kind of important to like either introduce yourself or just kind of like be there with your instrument and have someone like invite you in. Like you don't want to just like show up and like, plunk your harp down and start like playing with everyone. So you kind of wait to like, be greeted and brought in. And then there's a lot of like,
Ah.
you probably have this with jazz and stuff too. There are like a lot of tunes that are just like super common session tunes. So that's a nice, if you've got those tunes like dusted off and ready to go, that's like a great thing. So there's a 9/8 tune called The Butterfly that like if you called that tune, everyone would probably know it.
998.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to hear that one a
Oh,
little.
so it's kind of like so it's funny because it's a 9/8, but it definitely has more of like a three feel for a musician, but then a dancer would be like kind of playing around with all those faster beats in the 9/8. So it's kind of like a dancer would just be going for like, getting all those little like dun, 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 dun. So that would be like, really graceful for the dancer. But then a lot of times the musicians are kind of feeling it in that like slowish three kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So you've got your basic tunes, but then also, when you go to a session, there's a lot of tunes that like are popular to the session itself because it's like, you know, the local people who see each other like every session. So you get into like, oh, like we always play this tune and then we go into this. So a lot of times the first couple times, if you're at a new session, it might be a lot of just like writing down their tunes and listening, or you bring a recorder and you kind of just like kind of get used to the feel of that session. A lot of times, if you're the new guy too, like people will have you like you go around a circle a lot, so like people will take turns calling or leading a tune. So,
Wow.
the first couple times at a new session, you might not play a ton, but like, you'll get to play. So, and the listening, like, a lot of times if I go to a good session, it's like you're just learning so much by like listening to and just watching everyone. So, yeah, it's a great way to experience the music.
That is beautiful, yo, and that is around the world in Brazil with a Roda de Samba. If you go to a jazz jam session, it's the same way. Some people like to have a list and they write it down and they just call up different people on the different instruments and put
Okay.
combos together. Like, have you gone? So your husband plays jazz, no?
Not too much, no.
Okay, so man, so like, yeah, it's such an interesting thing and a similarity. And
Mhm.
and also we're playing with musicians from India and doing like Indian classical music. We once did a sound museum show where we had Southern Indian artists do some stuff together.
Mhm.
And so she was singing and we had someone coming through on the 5 string violin to play and
Okay.
another person playing the percussion instrument called the madunga.
Mhm.
So we show up. I never met these guys before, like this woman and this guy before. And but my main collaborator, we've been rehearsing and stuff, so I could know what to do.
Yeah.
So these musicians come through and we're doing a rehearsal and they're playing it and killing it. I'm like, oh yeah, when did y'all do a rehearsal? It's like, no, I just met them today.
Right.
Like I put out a filler for it. Like, hey, anybody know anybody that's gonna be available this Saturday to do madunga and play the violin and whatever.
Uh-huh.
And like it's that collective like repertoire, like, oh yeah, we these are the hits right here. Like these are the greatest hits in the culture and in the repertoire of the traditional music.
Yeah.
And it's a collective musical lexicon that you have,
Mhm.
and it allows like just people just to come together and just easily do that.
Oh
You
my
know what I'm
gosh,
saying?
yeah, that's so fun.
That's amazing, and I'm so glad that to work with you on this and to have you show us around to all of these things and stuff like
Oh my
that.
gosh, this was a blast. I'm so glad. Like, it was so much fun to like, even working with like all of it was done remotely, which is cool. But even like, picking which tune, and then it was
Mhm.
such a fun like surprise for me to hear like, how your rhythms fit in and kind of like played around in the rhythm of the piece. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's so much fun.
I feel the same way. It was such a pleasure collaborating with you, and it's interesting because the harp iconically has a very like a soothing, relaxing, meditative feel. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, to it, and a whimsical nature to it at times, right?
Mhm.
And so to have a beatbox, which could be a totally contrasting like element, you know what I'm saying, to it, that could and of course there are ways to do it where you could have an aggressive beat or you could have a more like chilling and sparse beat right there. I
Right.
think it's definitely like the sweet and sour sauce, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I love the texture is so nice too, because it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, two things that are like, different enough that when you put them together, you're like, oh, this is like, so interesting to listen to.
Yay. Likewise. All
Yeah.
right. Hold on. I forgot to ask you one more question. If y'all have any other questions, put them in the comments below.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're watching the rebroadcast, still put your comment there. We'll come back and respond to you. Okay. So look, the last question, because I heard it in passing and forgot about this because I always wondered. Um, Working at the House of Musical Traditions, I was chilling out and I was a coworker. My coworker Keith Carr was there. Keith Carr?
Yeah.
And so he has a band, right? So
Mhm.
with Tina, right? And they kill it. And so like there will always be Irish tenor banjo. I would say people like, oh yeah, I'm here to buy Irish
Oh
tenor
yeah.
banjo right there. And so for me, off top, I just come into the world knowing Irish traditional music, seeing the presence of a tenor banjo.
Mhm.
And you were talking about like how through the ages like different flavors came in and stuff. Like people started adding the guitar to it and then this. So the banjo, like how and where did that banjo come into play?
No, that is such an interesting question. And, I'm not exactly sure, but I know that, it's interesting because, like, so when Irish music came over to the United States, then it mixed a lot with like traditional, kind of Appalachian music, but that's kind of like part of the roots of bluegrass was like,
Mm,
Irish music getting mixed with other things. So, I would need to go do some reading on this, but I'm guessing that banjo, got mixed into like Appalachian folk music and stuff like that. And then probably from there, you know, found its way back to Ireland.
yeah.
Is my guess. But yeah, it definitely wasn't like, you know, one of those like medieval instruments of like, oh yeah,
No,
yeah,
yeah.
'cause it's like kind of a newer instrument, but then I think it got, added to the mix in the US, kind of like the hammer dulcimer. Like that was another one that's not like it's funny because it looks really Irish, but it's not an Irish instrument. And then you'll get it, from time to time in the Irish music. So I think it was one of those like people like Irish music going to another country, picking up these other styles and other instruments, and then like going back over.
Yeah, yo, and let me tell you on this end because just I mean this is the beauty of collaboration because we all have our specialties in our line of work and stuff, and so for me like just with the African American background,
Mm-hmm.
and studying all of this stuff and like the heritage of it, so the banjo is originally an African instrument.
Oh yeah, so you've got the names. Okay, that's cool.
Yep. I just post. So I'm posting them up on the screen for
Okay,
y'all. So the original one is called banjar,
the
and
band.
then there's another one that you will catch in Mali and all throughout West Africa, which is where like African Americans, our ancestry is all in like West Africa. You know what I'm saying? And for some people, the indigenous people too, which you could call Native Americans, but they existed before the concept of America.
Right,
All
exactly.
right, all First Nation peoples. So you have the banjar and you have the ngoni. All right, so like these are look these up.
I want to. They must be so cool.
Google them. They're really interesting. Like they're really interesting. And so these right here are the roots of the banjo. And then of course these people are brought here against their will, right? In the United States, during the translated slave trade, and then they have to reconstruct culture with
Right.
the instruments that are here and found around here. So then you have the creation of things like banjos and stuff. And throughout the Americas, like especially in South America, you have the cajon when drumming became outlawed.
Oh wow.
Just to try to keep the people from to prevent the people from communicating because if I could play this drum rhythm from my tribe here and I hear that same rhythm over there, I know that my people are over there and we could, you know what I'm saying? So
Hey,
that's
yeah.
like a really interesting history like with that music. And so you have this instrument all the way from West Africa now here because West Africans are here
Mhm.
back then. Then this instrument becomes the banjo that we know, right? First, it's no frets, of course, just like the ngoni and the banjar. So
Mhm.
then it's no frets, and then as it developed, it has frets. Then you find that throughout Appalachia, and then it's like, and then now I know Irish tenor banjo. So I'm like, what happened? What happened right there? So if we could trace those roots, we could find kind of like the roots that's in
Mhm.
the roots that's indicative of this collaboration and this cross
Oh,
pollination of
yeah. These all need to be my
Irish folks and black folks being like this.
yeah.
So there we go. That's the roots of our collaboration right here. I
Hmm. Oh my gosh, yeah, so fascinating.
For real. So with that being said, let's work on this album, mixing together all
Oh,
beatbox
it'll be so fun. Yeah.
and harp. Yes, please. And look, I want to thank you so much. Yo, Mary Kate Springley, thank you so much for doing this with me here and being down with our first ever Beatbox Remix live chat. My friends, if y'all have any more questions, look at the bottom in the scrolling joint. You'll see our Instagram handles right there. You can find us on Instagram and definitely on Facebook. And her family band is called
Seasons.
It's called, say it again.
Oh, season. So like we all have a middle name that's a season of the year. So
Ah,
yeah, so
dope.
spring. So we're in my season now. So it's exciting.
Yes. All right, so look, find them. You can find me here. Look out for the next Beatbox remix video next week. Go to what's the joint? beatboxremix.com to see more of the remix videos and stuff. And look, if y'all have any questions, put them in the comment section below. We're gonna holler at you on the rebroadcast, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Yo, Mary Kate Spring Lee, thank you so much for
Oh, thank
being
you so much. It was so nice getting to see you
here.
and chat for a little bit. It was so fun.
Oh man, yo, it's a pleasure, my friend. So look, we're gonna catch y'all next time, my friends. Be easy, stay safe out here, and let's explore all the ways of being together while having to be separate at the same time. Okay. All right,
Amen.
y'all. Bye, y'all.
Bye.